I was joking with Matt that looking at the time, I can speak for at least 35 minutes and we'll end right on time, or maybe we'll end early today, and that would be okay too. That would be the best. Then people would say, that was the best sermon you ever gave, Rabbi, because we ended 10 minutes early. I want to welcome our new friends that Reverend Mark Harper is relatively new to the community over in Tacoma Park, and he has brought some of the confirmation class from the Tacoma Park Presbyterian Church here in the back, so welcome. And I'm looking forward to being able to sit together after and talk about the service and kind of any other thoughts and questions and reflections that we'll share together. So if we open the Siddur, the prayer book that we were just using, page 185. Don't get too excited. We're not getting to Musaf yet. But, over the last couple weeks, I've been focusing on things that are hidden in plain sight. Like things that we just know about and we just do, but are really worth focusing on. So at the top of 185, there are these words that we say before the Amidah. The Chazan has put it to music, and it's more complicated than I can sing, right? Adonai sifatai, sifatai tivtach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Right, I got that part, but the complicated part is when he has that refrain and all of that. But these are actually the words that are on my talit. Right, when I did the Sisterhood Talit workshop, and I had to pick a phrase for the Atara, which is the top part of it, it says, Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Because these words are significant to me. God, open my lips that my mouth may speak your praise, is how it's translated here. And when we do it, we take 3 steps back. There's 6 words in this phrase. We take 3 steps back, pause, and 3 steps forward. And the idea is that you should be prepared for what is to come. Right, so long before there was New Age religion, Judaism deeply had the idea of intentionality, that you should bring your intentions and be present and be focused on what you are doing. And this is just one of the examples of it. The rabbis say that this is like you are entering the royal room, the throne room of God. And you wouldn't just casually break into the throne room of a king, right? That you would prepare yourself and you would humble yourself, the 3 steps backwards, and then you would come with your fullness in front of God. And I think that if that was the only part of my talk, that would be worth it. The idea of, and maybe I should end there, right? That the need to humble yourself and then to stand before someone in that humility, prepared for an encounter. Right? Buber talks about that, of looking at someone in a real, authentic encounter, I, thou versus I, it, Buber says. But I want to focus on something else, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I want to focus on something, again, that is hidden in plain sight, that we don't pay attention to. We pretend it is just not here, and so we humble ourselves, and then we prepare ourselves with intentions to talk about a difficult conversation, which is that mental health, well, let me say it a different way. We are broken. There is a lot of brokenness around us, and we spend a lot of time glossing over it. These last 2 years have been so hard. I brought some of these themes earlier to the 6th grade junior congregation service, where with the 6th graders, and their parents, I talked about the idea of shlemut, of wholeness. Of course, shalom is hello, and shalom is goodbye, and shalom is peace, and shlemut, a variation of that word, is completeness, of wholeness. And these last 2 years, there's been a lot of the opposite of that. There's been a lot of brokenness, of incompleteness, of absences, of people that are absent in our life because COVID affected them. Either they were sick and we couldn't be with them, people died and we couldn't be with them. And there is just the regular run-of-the-mill mental health issues that have been stressed and exacerbated, extended, accentuated, stressed because of these last 2 years. And we talk about COVID as if it is in the past, and it is not. From the doctor or medical standpoint, it is not behind us completely, even as much as we wish we could. It's like it's vacation time, so let's have vacation from pandemic. And even if we might think that pandemic is behind us, that sense of how we have been transformed is not. There is a blessing written by Rabbi Naomi Levy. And I want to hear how this resonates with you. So I'm going to read it, and then I want to hear your response. She calls this a prayer for spiritual healing from depression. And I want to emphasize that this is not, what my remarks are not only about COVID. COVID just shined a light on issues that were already there. Mental health, I may have mentioned Mental Health Awareness Month started in 1949. Already in 49, there was an awareness of the acuteness of this, and it is only all the more so. So don't think only of COVID, think of all of the stresses and brokenness that we encounter. So she writes, I remember joy, God, but I can't feel it anymore. Everything seems hopeless and tiresome. I think I've lost my soul. All I have left is this dreary, hollow body. The people who love me are trying to help, but I can't seem to find my way out of this darkness. Free me, God. Breathe a new spirit into me. Give me strength. Give me patience. Give me hope. Be with me. Lead me back to joy, back to love, back to life, back to you. Amen. Where does that sit with you? Yeah, Jack.
Well, Rabbi, I've been in that position. Twice in my life. I got very, very, very depressed and very low. And even on one occasion, I contemplated suicide. But through prayer, but also through my friendships with people, many in this congregation today, who I've come back today just because I happen to be in town. But some in this congregation stood with me on those deep, dark days. You cannot come out by yourself. Yes, you can pray, but it takes a team to get you out from where you are. And so many people suffer now, young people too, because of drug addiction or something. You cannot do it by yourself. You can pray to God, and God will help lead you. But you need the whole community to stand with you. Thank goodness I had the community that stood with me when I was in my 40s and later again in my 60s, both occasions. So that really speaks to me at this moment because I've been there. And some of you know that. Many of you who know me a long time didn't know that I struggled with this. But I found a way to come to, she called it, I think, joy. I call it happiness. Every day I wake up, I'm a happy man. Even if things don't go well on that day, I'm still happy. Because happiness comes from inside. And if you can have the happiness inside of you,
Thank you. Let me try to capture some of that so that everyone can hear, and also those who are at home. That you beautifully and powerfully shared that these words speak to you, because twice in your life you have been in that dark place, even as dark as contemplating suicide. And you recognize through that experience you shared that you can't do it alone. That the friendships and connections that you have within the congregation and beyond the congregation helped guide you, along with prayer, but not exclusively with prayer, to find a place that what Rabbi Levy calls joy and you call happiness inside. And that if you can find a place, a modicum, just a drop of happiness, and to fan that, to bring that out, that even a bad day won't be a bad day. But that even in the darkest times, you couldn't stand by yourself, that you needed to be able to reach out. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad that you're here today and each day that you're here. Melanie. Yeah, sure.
So I was part of the prayer that you read, talked about feeling empty. And so many of you know that I work in the public schools, and many of our children are feeling that emptiness. And they're filling it with things that are not real, feeling it with things from the internet, from gaming, from relationships that aren't really real. And so we wonder why they're doing it. And many of them are feeling that emptiness and trying to find a way to fill it. And so I just encourage you to check on your children, check on the children that you love that are in your family or your friends' children, to check in on them to see what they are filling that emptiness with, because they're feeling it and they're filling it, and we're not checking on what is filling it for them.
Yeah. What is happening Melanie works in MCPS, but there is not a therapist in the area that is not overbooked. Good for them, and horrible for us. Not good for us. Right. Yeah. There, for Samantha says, no, it is, because it is overwhelming for the therapists as well, right? And what they're doing is so important. And so, Samantha, on behalf of all the mental health professionals and Melanie, thank you for what you're doing. You want to share something? Yeah.
Just that it's also not good for us because it's generally not good.
Yeah.
Not just because we're overwhelmed, but because it's not what we want.
Correct. No, I was saying, I was making light, and that was inappropriate. So the work of the therapists, again, is another whole category of seeking help, asking for help, is important. And it's something that is, again, hidden in plain sight. It seems like everyone has a therapist, and yet we don't talk about it. And so it's so important. So Stephen Mitchell, who's really an incredible translator, he translates sort of a poetic translation of Psalms. And so here's a loose translation of Psalm 102. Lord, answer my prayer. Listen to my supplication. Don't hide your radiance from me on this day of my desperate need. Hear me when I cry out for mercy. Hurry, send me your help, for my days fly away like smoke and my bones burn down to ashes. Sorrow gives me no respite. Anguish crushes my heart. I am like an owl in the wilderness, like a hawk in the desert places. All night I lie awake like a sparrow upon a rooftop. My food has all turned to ashes. Tears are my only drink. Imagine what was happening that place for the psalmist. What was happening in his life? Remember, Psalms are 2,000 plus years old, but the emotions expressed are current. The human emotions that are captured in the poetry of Psalms is real. So I don't know what was happening for the psalmist in that moment, but I can relate to the pain that they were going through. And you might be able to as well. And it is pervasive. So where do we come? Who do we turn to? Obviously, we turn to each other. As friends, we listen more deeply. We turn to, if you are a kid, you can turn to your parents. But if your parents are the ones that are causing you anguish, then you turn to another adult. You come to me or Rabbi Megdal or Chazan Fratkin. You go to a teacher. You go to someone, but you cannot stand alone in that darkness. And that when you turn to someone, not the next day or the next week, but you are starting on the path to healing. It's funny, we close the service today and each week, right, with the Don Olam. And we kind of joke about it that it's the tallis folding song, right? Because that's what we all do. We stand up and we're folding our tallises and we're looking around. But the rabbis put it there on purpose. And the closing line, which means the very last prayer that is said while you are here, and that they want us to leave and enter back out into the world with, is important enough to me that I have it on my Siddur cover here. Adonai li velo ira. The very last word we're supposed to say in the formal prayer service is that God is with me, I will not fear. What does that mean to you in this context that we're talking about it? That God is with me, I will not fear. Adonai li velo ira. What does that mean to you? Tana.
One of the most crushing things about having a fear is feeling you're in isolation, feeling you're the only one who's ever had that fear. And what that says is we all experience that and we all need that answer.
Yeah. Yeah, all of us need this. That fear is part of isolation, right? Fear is a dark place. Fear is a narrowing experience. And by all of us saying this together, we're not saying God is with us. Right? There's many places where we use the plural, but all of us together individually acknowledge that God is with me and therefore I won't fear. And we are saying that together in empowerment, we are shining light on that aloneness. And maybe we won't be as fearful, or maybe we will be able to step through fear together. Adonai li velo ira. So I hope today we bring the intentionality as we close the service. Let's think about those words, those very last words. Because the brokenness is real. The brokenness in different ways is something that we have experienced before COVID. It has been amplified during COVID, and it is going to continue with us after. Adonai li velo ira. Shabbat shalom.